Yeah, hi, Russ Trineri here. I'm the president and CEO of InnFocus, and our goal is to provide a safe, effective, and relatively easy to perform solution for lowering intraocular pressure for patients who have glaucoma. And we're aiming to do this for all stages of primary open-angle glaucoma, mild, moderate, and severe. This space is a fantastic space to be in right now. The surgical devices arena is growing, according to Market Scope, over the next several years, up to 40%. Just in the United States, there are 3.5 million patients with glaucoma. It's typically a two-eye disease, so you've got 7 million treatable eyes there and about 80 million patients globally. We have a reimbursement code that's already been identified for this technology, so once we've gone through the clinical trial phase, we do have a very high expectation of having good reimbursement for this once we're part of the free market. And interestingly, we may be the only device that meets EU reimbursement requirements. It's our understanding that what the European governments are looking for is a device that has data compared to trabeculectomy. We're the only company out there that's producing data like that. We've had best-in-class IOP lowering. If you look at the trials that we've done outside of the United States, we have over 240 patients that have been enrolled in 4 different clinical trials. These are all prospective trials, and we have now up to 5 years of follow-up. Our US study is initiated against the glaucoma standard, trabeculectomy, and what we've seen, what we expect to see, and what we've seen in our data outside of the United States is IOP lowering of 40 to 50%, and these are patients that are maxed out on their meds. No washout here, so these are max medication patients, and we're getting 40 to 50% IOP lowering in conjunction with a 70 to 80% reduction in glaucoma medication on a postoperative basis. We've got a very unique material and product. This material is extremely biocompatible. It's been proven in humans for over 15 years now, and what we've seen with this device is it stays patent, it resists encapsulation. We do have a European CE mark, and we've got very good patent protection as well. So when you think about what the opportunities are for picking a device for treating glaucoma, why us? Well, first of all, we're able to deliver intraocular pressures below 15 millimeters of mercury. And why is that important? What the AEGIS study showed years ago was that if you could get a glaucomatous patient, if you could get their pressure to below 15 millimeters of mercury, that was the point at which they were less likely or unlikely to have continued degradation of vision. So that's been our goal through this trial, through all of our trials, to get pressures below 15 millimeters of mercury. We are the only surgical device right now that's being studied where in our FDA clinical trial, we're going to be treating mild, moderate, and severe primary angle glaucoma. So we'll be able to take all comers in that POAG arena. And there's no requirement to remove the cataract. You can, but to get the results that we're getting, and I'll show you this data in a few slides, there's no requirement to remove that cataract to get those low pressures. We're going through the final phase. We're just beginning the final phase of our FDA clinical trial. And as far as we know, this is the only device that's being compared to the gold standard, trabeculectomy. And so when we get to the other side of this, we're going to have the only labeling that has data compared to trabeculectomy. Our unique patented material has over 1 million patient uses over this 15-year period of time, and we've been in the eye for 7 years. This material has been used in both the cardiovascular environment as well as in the ophthalmic environment. So, you know, when doctors think about choosing new technologies, they've got new devices, new designs to look at, sometimes new materials. And the question is, do those materials work? Ours clearly does. This is what the marketplace looks like. It's gigantic. The patients that we're going to be treating in our FDA clinical trial are in this blue area. They're in the open angle, this primary open angle arena. But also, if you look at that red piece of the pie, those are patients with primary open angle glaucoma and also have a cataract. We can treat those patients as well outside of the United States. We will not be doing those as part of our FDA clinical trial, however. So this provides us a market opportunity, as you can see just from the picture, where everybody's focused on that red piece of the pie. We're focused on both the red and the blue piece, which gives us a very large marketplace. So here's what we're trying to accomplish. I'm going to show you a body of clinical data here, and this zone here that's colored below 15 millimeters of mercury and above 5 millimeters of mercury, that's our goal to get patients in that arena. And in this series of patients, where we had 155 patients preoperatively with an average an intraocular pressure of 23.6 on max medications, these patients are on an average of 2.3 medications each, and you can see as these patients are aging out, at 1 year, we had IOPs still well below 15 millimeters of mercury, and the patients on 1/2 of a med. 2 years, patients were still on 1/2 of a med, pressures well below 15. At 3 years, patients at 0.6 meds. So again, fantastic IOP lowering. And then at 4 and 5 years, even though this is small n, we've got a couple of patients who have gotten out there, meds per patient of between 0.4 and 0.9, all the way out to the 5-year mark, and yet intraocular pressure is well below 15. These data include a couple of dozen cases that were also done in conjunction with cataract removal, and I'll show you that data split out in just a second. And again, an average of 80% of these patients totally off of glaucoma medications. We've had no long-term sight-threatening adverse events. Now, as part of our clinical trial, as I said earlier, we're going to be treating mild, moderate, and severe. So some of these patients have had very little vision loss. Some, as you can see, have had a lot from these visual field tests. And this is how the data stratify when you look at the mild, moderate, and severe. And you can see pretty much the same results for no matter how severe the patient's glaucoma is. You can see that we're getting these patients below 15 millimeters of mercury in the mild, moderate, and severe categories. These data are stratified where we've got 95 of these patients had just the device put in, and 18 of these patients had the device put in along with cataract removal. You can see the results are identical. So it doesn't matter whether you remove the cataract or not. We don't rely upon it, but you can. So why do we have this incredible data? Well, our material is amazing. It's a revolutionary material. It's ultra stable, doesn't degrade, and as Dr. Paul Palmberg likes to say, this material is so biocompatible the eye doesn't even know that it's in there. This is a picture of the device at the end of a finger. You can see it's 8.5 millimeters long with an outer diameter of 350 microns and an inner diameter of 70 microns. So very little fluid is able to flow through this, and that's one of the reasons we have not had any chronic hypotony associated with that. This image shows a sagittal view of the eye where you can see the front end, the proximal end of the micro shunt there in the anterior chamber with the distal end tucked underneath tenons that ends up forming a very low and diffuse bleb. It's the same drainage pathway that's used for trabeculectomy, so we know that works. That is the gold standard for lowering pressure. And so what we've demonstrated is we've got post-op IOPs, certainly at 3 years and now out to 5, that are below 15 millimeters of mercury, no requirement to remove the cataract, a relatively easy to perform, fast procedure for the doctor, much quicker and easier than a trabeculectomy, and results that are not temporary. What you get at 3 months and 3 years are pretty much the same. So what we've been able to demonstrate here is a 50% reduction, over a 50% reduction from baseline, and these patients, again, are on full meds. They're not washed out. Over 80% of the patients with an IOP below 15 millimeters of mercury, an 80% reduction of glaucoma medications, and over 70% of the patients completely off of their meds at 3 years. Amazing results. From an adverse event standpoint, we've had about 10% of the patients with IOPs below 5 millimeters of mercury after day 1 of the surgery, but all these cases were resolved spontaneously. 5% view of choroidal effusion, all resolved spontaneously. No endophthalmitis, no chronic hypotony, no progression of cataracts in the phakic patients. So the benefit to risk ratio for this technology in our studies outside of the United States have proven to be very impressive. Finally, our FDA study design. It's the only prospective randomized clinical trial that goes up against trabeculectomy. We have finished the first phase of over 100 patients. We have just received approval to go into the final phase. We'll be treating 412 patients with up to a 2-year follow-up. And again, we'll end up with a label claim right up against the gold standard trabeculectomy. We'll have a study that meets EU reimbursement requirements. This is going to be these data are going to be tough for competitors to follow. So we believe we've got game-changing competitive advantage due to our device and our study design. Thank you.